Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome to another episode of Found Footage Fridays with my co-host, Tom River.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My cat says good evening.
Hello, cat.
He's all snuggled up on that blanket. My name is blocking him like he's censored.
Meet again.
Well, we made it to another Friday, and that means another found footage movie.
What are we talking about this week?
This week we are talking about, because I did not look at the date before I pulled this up, is the 2011
That old.
sci-fi horror found footage movie, Apollo 18.
This one's been around. I feel like this has popped up. I hear about it every now and again, but somehow we never quite got to it. So we're here.
It's come up before.
It has come up. Yeah.
Yeah. And it kept showing me it on something. And I was like, man, I really want to rewatch that. Because
you had seen this before. This is my first one.
I saw it when it first came out, but all I really remembered was that I liked it. I couldn't really remember the story.
Did you see it in theaters? Was it in theaters?
It was in theaters. This is a big budget found footage movie.
Really?
Yeah.
I wondered.
The budget was $5 million.
For a found footage movie, that's nuts.
Would you like
the
to
only
know
other one has got to be like the only other one's got to be like Cloverfield.
Yeah. Do you want to know how much it made in the box office?
Not that much, I bet.
24 million.
Oh, wow. I wonder why I haven't heard more about it then. I mean, I've heard a little bit, but like
yeah,
wow.
I mean, I hear people talking about it on occasion, but I never but I don't ever hear people like going out of their way to talk about it. I see people will randomly like I know when I posted on Twitter that I was watching it, people were like, "Oh my God, it's so underrated." And I'm like, where was this conversation before? Like, I never hear people talk about it.
Yeah, it is definitely underrated. I agree with that.
More people need to be talking about it.
Yes. I think that's my shock. Like, okay, it had a big budget. It was in theaters. It's also really good. Why is this one sort of not on the radar quite as much as certain other movies that we hear a lot about?
Yeah, I think, and I'm surprised because there really isn't another one like that in the sense of like.
I mean, there's nothing like this movie.
Yeah.
At all. Like it is found footage, like just to the letter, it's found footage.
Yeah.
But it's not only not like any other found footage movie, there's not a horror movie that's like this. There's not another film that exists.
No, there's not.
Don't think. And it looks so accurate.
Yeah.
It looks like what it should look like.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yes, I agree. This looks really authentic. That was where all the money went, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the acting's good too. Don't get me wrong. I feel like they're all good. But it just, if you've ever seen some of the old footage of the, original moon landing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know. They had to do their research. Let's just say that. They did their research for this movie and they got it right. So
I totally agree.
It looked like it could be footage out of the 60s, 70s, something like that.
Yeah. So, and the short synopsis for this is just, a couple of astronauts get sent on this like top secret mission to the moon after 17's failure, I think, after Apollo 17's failure.
Yeah.
And so, they're not allowed to tell their families where they're going. They're not allowed to tell anybody what they're doing. Like they've lied about where they're what they're doing. And they get sent up, they land on the moon, and then, things kind of start getting a little crazy. So for me, I really loved this. I didn't remember it being this good. Like I said, like I remembered liking it. I just didn't remember being like, oh wow, this is like really, really good. But watching it this time, I was like, dang, like why aren't more people
it's good. Yeah.
talking about it?
Yeah.
And I don't know that I feel like it had very many weaknesses. It's the normal length of a found footage film.
Yep.
The acting was believable. They left enough up to your imagination while still showing you a few things. You've got some interesting like government type things going on, and and I love sci-fi horror. I'm like that's one of
Same,
my
same.
favorites.
Yep.
Like, and it's and
I
this
specifically love like space, like in
yes,
space
yes,
sci-fi horror, like
yes, yep,
more than like on Earth, but loved
yeah.
it.
No, I agree. Yeah, so it checked. This checks a lot of boxes for me.
it one of its one of the things it does best
Mhm.
is what so many found footage movies do wrong, and that's they there you don't see too much. You
Yeah.
see exactly the right amount of what you're supposed to see, and it
Mhm.
makes it scarier. That
Yeah.
you're just seeing something, a glimpse of something in the distance on the dark camera, or something shift. Like you really don't see a lot. And it
No.
just builds to the what, because you have no idea what is happening
Yeah, and
before.
I think and it's great because I feel like you go in thinking it's going to be one thing, but I think the version of this, like the way that this spins, is still pretty unique. Like it's very different
Yeah,
than just like our typical like, oh, something's out there kind of spacey movie. Like I feel like it goes into really unique territory with the way it presents this threat.
yeah.
Yeah.
But in a way, though, and it's very different, but in a way, it is sort of Blair Witch in space, sort of like these filmmakers. In a way, they're not filmmakers, but they're carrying cameras.
Yeah.
They're not going into the woods; they're going to the moon, and they find something maybe they didn't want to find.
Hmm.
Things slowly get worse and worse and worse, and
Yeah.
spiral out of control for them. And then
Yeah.
people find their footage.
Yeah. And I think they do a really good job of the whole like why filming thing too, because it's all cameras posted everywhere else
Oh yeah,
mostly.
yep,
There is the cameras I think that are on their what do you call it? Their
yeah,
space
yep,
suits. But it's never like like I'm just walking around with a camera, which I think was a really smart move specifically for this setup. Um
and realistic because they wouldn't have they wouldn't have handheld.
they have a job to do.
Yeah,
It's a very serious thing. Space is very dangerous. Like there's a lot that could happen if you're not paying attention to what you're doing and you're worried about filming everything. So I think that element was really strong too.
yep,
I thought the acting was really good. I loved the story. The ends, we get our like, I won't say what they say, but like our end scene, our end word
yep,
pictures that we get were really great. Like I really loved this one a lot.
yeah. Uh, no, I loved it a lot too.
Mhm.
I think it has some of the best things that we talk about in found footage.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that this one is not like higher on people's lists. It really should be.
Yeah, I'm glad that we're talking about it because I had been wanting to revisit it, but I don't know, like I'm blown away with how much I loved this compared to just remember liking it to being like, no, like this is a fantastic found footage film.
Yeah, I totally agree. So would you rate it?
You want me to go first?
Yeah,
Okay, ready?
ready.
So, like I said already, I loved this. I don't feel like there's a single weakness in this film. It's probably in my opinion a pretty perfect found footage film. So, my score for the first time on this show for Apollo 18 is 10 out of 10 tapes.
What? Wow. This
Yeah.
is the best movie you think that we have seen
Yeah.
and talked about on Found Footage Friday.
Yep. The only other found footage movie I have ever given a 10 out of 10 is Blair Witch.
Huh.
That's it.
Wow. So okay, so I don't like it that much. Let me
That's fine.
I just gotta get ahead of that. I like it a lot. Sorry. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't feel, I think the things that made me uncomfortable in this, they didn't like terrify me though. You know what I mean? Like I want to be scared with a found footage movie, and I felt
Mhm.
like there's something like very claustrophobic and really isolating about this movie, which
Yeah.
is great, but it's different kind of scary. And
Mhm.
so for that, I give this movie a 7.5.
Okay.
I think it's really well done, and there's not a lot of problems. It's not that there's problems with it. I don't really have much that's problematic about it. I
Yeah.
just, I liked it a lot. I just didn't love it. I just didn't think it was super scary. That's all.
Okay. Yeah. I think that the things that I found scary were like things that that already give me anxiety. So like
Sure.
other movies that are not horror movies but take place in space give me anxiety.
Yes.
Space is like air, water for me, like air, ocean. Like it gives me so much anxiety. There's
Absolutely. Yeah.
so much unknown. I'm automatically, and it's the same thing with anything that takes place in the water. I'm automatically going to be in an unsure like emotion when I go into it.
Yep.
And I think the other thing is like the isolation really got to me. And I feel like isolation is one of those things that like isn't super easy to nail. Like I don't think it's very easy to just make people feel isolated when they're chilling in their house watching a movie. But this I felt like did such a good job, and I got invested in like the characters. So like when things started to really get crazy, I was like, oh no, like I cared. But yeah, I think as far as the scary for me, it just was like the real parts of it were the parts that were scary for me. The like being stuck in that small, I'm super claustrophobic, like super claustrophobic. And so that worked for me. But also like the things that end up being what's there were like to me. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I won't say what they are, wait, but
I mean, I don't want to spoil, but the thing I'm like sort of different. The things that ended up being there, I was like, that's it. Like, I mean, I don't want to say that's it. There's like a gross factor about these things for sure. But like what they were camouflaging themselves as, I'll just say that. I didn't find it to be scary, particularly. But it made sense for the movie. I'm not saying it was good. It was well done. Yeah. Very well done. It didn't quite do it for me.
I can think of a specific group of people that this would terrify.
What group of people?
The people who actually have the legitimate fear of this thing.
Huh.
I would think this would be like,
am I thinking of the right thing? Are the people that have a legitimate fear of
the bug part?
Oh, I thought they were just rocks.
No, they're like spiders.
But that looked like rocks.
Yeah, so that's like part of the like I don't know if you want to call it like an eco. We're going into spoilers. I don't know if you want to call it like I don't know if you want to call it like an ecosystem, but I kind of took it as like a camouflage technique to look like rocks, but then they come alive as these like creatures with legs.
Yes.
Like spiders.
So, that was scarier. That was creepier.
And the thing is like that one time where it shows the I don't know, I can't remember the guy's names, but the first guy that things happen to, and it shows it like go across his thing. I was like, oh, nope, nope,
yeah,
nope, out, nope, I would have just taken my helmet off and just said goodbye. Like I would have been so done. I hated that. I was like, ugh, like,
yeah. So are we spoiling now? I forget.
I said we're in spoilers. Yeah. I'll slap a note up or something.
Warning, like, spoilers.
Yeah, we're in spoilers. Because I think like that was, and what I was saying was people who have arachnophobia, this would probably give them a lot of anxiety.
I was like, people who have a fear of rocks.
I knew when you did this, that's what you
I was like, is that a thing? Like, I guess it must be.
There is. I'm sure there is.
Yeah, you can find people who are afraid of anything, but like
anything. Mayonnaise, that's a thing. It's gross, but it's not scary.
Right. So yeah.
But yeah, that's what I meant. Arachnophobia.
Okay. Arachnophobia. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sort of as far as like the isolation. Did you ever see the movie Sphere? Dustin Hoffman, Samuel Jackson, Sharon Stone.
Yes. Yeah.
Sort of made me feel like it had a feel of that sort of movie. Although, like, again, it didn't look like that movie, but just sort of like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
vibe, sort of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It,
yeah. I
it,
can see why you'd say that.
I think this movie's interesting because it's obviously set during. So it's like found footage. The whole basis of found footage, starting with Blair Witch, is like someone running around with a camcorder, right? And so
Mhm.
this took that idea and put it in a time period before the camcorder, before
Love that. Ugh.
phones, camera phones, and so showed that like you could still do this kind of movie, you know, in a completely different era. I wonder, like, where else, what other time periods you could set found footage in and make it still work. I think it's challenging to do. This is one of the few settings, I think, in that time period where you would have enough camera, set up, because this is NASA. So
I was going to
NASA is
say it has a lot to do with who would have the money to do something like that.
right,
And it
right.
wouldn't be a me or you back then.
You,
It would
you,
be, yeah,
you. I
yeah.
mean, there are people that had home cameras, but a lot of those didn't even have like audio and sound. So like,
No, it was, yeah. And you can only, yeah. So it's, man, I don't know what I mean, again, this is a $5 million thing. They made, I can't remember if I said this or not. They made 24 million in the box office.
24.
So
Wow.
29 total, but when you subtract obviously the 5 they spent on it, their profit was $24 million for a random sci-fi horror found footage movie in 2011.
Wow. That's
So people
impressive.
went to see this. Like,
Oh yeah. I think I'm so shocked I didn't go to see this in 2011. What was I doing?
I'm pretty sure I didn't go see this in theaters. I feel like
I don't
remember
recall
that.
this. I don't recall this being in theaters. I'm like
It had a theater.
flabbergasted.
Maybe it was just select theaters. It didn't say. But I know I saw the box office profit of 24, so it definitely
Probably did. Yeah, it did. Yeah.
But maybe it was one of those things where they did like a limited, or I have no idea. I wasn't. No, I wasn't. That was post Paranormal Activity. So I definitely was into found footage. I don't know. I probably didn't hear about it. So I didn't see it until it was like available to rent or something. I probably like red boxed it or something. I don't know.
And so as far as like the plot, it's interesting because these guys, they think they're just exploring the moon on a mission to the moon. They think they're getting samples to bring back to Earth. They think they're coming back to Earth. And it starts off like, it's really kind of cool at first. They're seeing like the footprints from the original moon landing and the flag and other things that were left behind, which is really cool. And then they start seeing more footprints that they shouldn't, in places they shouldn't be seeing.
And they don't match their
They
style
don't match.
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And eventually they discover like a Russian cosmonauts moon lander.
So good.
They didn't expect the Russians to have landed themselves or to have had their own successful mission.
Mhm.
Eventually they find evidence that something happened to the cosmonauts. They eventually find the cosmonauts and they are dead. And they have no idea what caused this.
I love that whole segment.
Oh yeah, that was great.
So it gave me like oh my God, what's the video game? It made me think of like Dead Space, where like you get to these certain parts and you see like the chaos that this thing has done, which at this point we don't know what it is yet. And there's like blood and there's like messed up equipment and you're like, what in the world?
And you're waiting for the thing, whatever did it, to jump
whatever it is to come up. It's like, it was so good. Like that whole sequence. And because I'd already seen it, I knew it was the spider rocks. Like I knew that, but I was like, in my head, I was like, oh no, like, I don't know. Like that scene was really, really well shot. And then and again, like just a compliment to how well this was filmed, but like the way that all looked. And then when they found the other guy like dead in the ditch.
Yeah.
Or the crater. Sorry, we're on the moon. The crater.
Yeah, that was really well done.
Oh, so good.
And then something happens obviously to one of them. So he gets in his suit somehow. Or they bring back samples, and one of the samples is loose in the shuttle, and
Gets in the suit.
all this whole time, there's like a third guy who's sort of like orbiting the moon, and they keep going in and out of contact with him, and so that sort of like adds to the suspense, because every now and again there was a period of time where they were out of communication and waiting.
And they're alone.
Like, alone.
Yeah.
And so this other guy, this is a guy who gets injured. His condition worsens and worsens, and is like getting into whatever it is getting into his bloodstream, and he's slowly like losing it. Something's going on with him, and eventually he like runs off or something like that, and it happened to him at first. The other guy makes his way back to the Russian cosmonaut station because there's like damage to their craft, and contacts NASA back on Earth, and NASA basically says they're not going to come get them, and that the indication is that they knew what was going to happen all along, and that they are contaminated, and they don't want these guys to bring back whatever was to Earth. What's confusing is what was the purpose of the mission, right? Why were they going knowing, that they were at risk? Why would they put these guys at risk? You have a theory?
I think it's more of just like this is kind of a loose example, but it's the first one that comes to mind. We know this not quite submarine that just imploded.
Yep.
So I kind of equate it to like something like that, or it's like, oh, we're sending people to see if we can do this, like to see what else, like, because the whole reason they were there was to collect data on the like different things. Like they're collecting samples from the craters, they're collecting rocks, they're collecting dirt or whatever, cheese, whatever the moon's made of. And they're collecting all these things to take them back because 17 was a failure, right? So then they send them up there to see if they can get more information and come back safely. I don't know that they necessarily just assumed that they would die, but it may have just been hoping that they were going to be more successful than the team that tried the last time.
This time.
You were so still during that moment. I almost thought you were frozen. You were so still. I was like, and then you moved. I was like, okay. I don't know how you did that. You did not move for like a whole minute. Anyway.
I was just transfixed by what you were saying.
That's the only thing I have. And I'll be honest, I don't really like the government. So I feel like this is one of those things I do think would happen because that's the thing with people in power and people with money. They don't care who they sacrifice. They're going to keep trying until they get information, or can take over things or do or have all these things. And I think like it's just something.
Especially in a situation like this, nobody would actually know.
Yeah.
There's no way that anybody would know.
Yeah, well, because the guy that was in orbit was like, all right, I'm going to try to come get you. And they were like, don't you dare.
Right.
Like, he's been infected. And then the second guy that you're like rooting for, you're like, please save him. Then he looks at the camera and his eyes are messed up. You're like, oh, he really is. They were right. Yeah. And then he crashes the other one into the one that's in orbit. And then that's it.
None of them make it.
And then they lie about where all of them died.
Yep. And that's exactly what would happen.
That's 1,000%. That's what I'm saying. Like this was real. Like this
kind of thing. Like I think maybe not this exact thing, but that's why conspiracy theories exist, because you could see governments easily covering up these sorts of things. So like it's fun to sort of wonder what we don't know.
Right? 1,000,000%. Yes. Yeah. Because like, I just feel like that was real. Like,
yeah.
And that's like, God, it was so good. I loved this. This was so good. Like, first of all, again, I love sci-fi horror like so much. I wish there was more of it that was more serious. There's a lot of it that's kind of like, but I wish like have you ever seen Pandorum?
Yes.
I love Pandorum. That's one of
great.
my favorite.
That's great.
So
Yeah, that sort of has this feel, except that's not found footage. But like, yeah,
but it is like it's a really, really, really good like sci-fi horror movie.
that's an excellent movie. Yeah,
It's got Ben Foster in it. He's
Mhm.
amazing. I
He's
forgot.
good in everything. Yeah.
Yeah, he's great and everything. One of the other main characters, Dennis Quaid? No. Who's the other main character? There's another really big name in it.
I don't remember.
But anyway,
I remember Ben Foster.
but
Yeah.
there's not a lot of it. There's not a lot of like really good, kind of dark, like actually like uncomfortable, unsettling, like sci-fi horror. It's mostly like action sci-fi horror where it's got like a little bit of horror.
That's why I mentioned Sphere. Like
Yeah.
it sort of has that feel. It's a different kind of movie, but like
Sure. No, I know what you mean though. I totally agree. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love this one.
It's excellent. Go watch it, everybody.
Yeah.
It's
YouTube
free.
without ads if you have YouTube Red, or you can watch it on Tubi.
Don't be like us. Don't wait years and years to see this thing.
Us being Tom, because I saw it when it came out.
Yeah. Don't be like me. Be like Angel.
Yeah. I got called, I was recently on another podcast and I got called a found footage aficionado.
Well, we are.
We are the name in found footage. Duh.
So there was someone recently who commented and said that there's another found footage YouTube show. I've heard.
Who is it? I want to know who it is.
I don't know. I've heard there's another channel or series or something. So maybe we have some competition, some friendly competition.
Maybe we can have them on and do a found footage quiz and really see who the tops are.
We can arm wrestle.
Virtually.
You're gonna win. We'll win. Obviously.
Obviously, because we're the found footage people.
So we're getting into spooky season, by the way. So if you have spooky season found footage, I want to know about it.
I know, because I think we covered all the main. Well, we are going to get 85. VHS 85 is going to come out in October, so we'll definitely be covering that one.
And there is a Halloween found footage that we couldn't find. That you remember which one I'm talking about?
The special, something
yes,
special.
We should try to see if we can rent it somewhere.
It may just, we may just have to bite the bullet and pay for it.
Because about a year ago, we said we wanted to watch it and couldn't find it.
We did.
So, yeah.
And I know we'll cover VHS 85 because that will be brand new. That one comes out on Shudder in October.
Yeah.
But yeah, if there's any Halloween themed ones, definitely let us know.
Please do. In the comments.
Because the new Hell House won't be out till next year, I don't think.
Right.
So
I'm definitely I rewatch Hell House every October. So I'll be watching that.
My Halloween movies are not found footage ones usually. Like the ones that I like watch every year.
That's the only one. That and House is October Built.
I really liked that one.
Those are the only like Halloween found footage I might watch. Maybe Blair Witch sometimes, but otherwise it's just I tend to watch the classics, like classic horror films around Halloween. So
I always watch Halloween on Halloween, but I usually watch Trick or Treat is one I always watch. I don't think
of that as a classic. That is
I know. I'm just saying like those are ones that I watch, and I always watch Nightmare Before Christmas. Always.
We watch that on Halloween night. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Pocus. But yeah, like I'll watch the Halloween. I typically watch the original Halloween series, Friday the 13th, and Nightmare on Elm Street.
I've only seen one Friday the 13th movie.
Gasp.
I know, it's just not a franchise I care about. One day I'll get through them all, but
it's so much fun. It's so much fun.
Yeah. I've seen the remake, I guess. So technically I've seen 2.
That does not my God. That does not count. That's like saying watching the new Nightmare on Elm Street is watching the
it's part of the franchise though.
No, it's not. It's completely separate.
Oh, well, yeah. So if you have like Halloween themed, or even if you know a scary one that we haven't talked about, I'd love to see a scary one. Scary would be good.
And yes, we know Ganjam. We haven't done that yet. So
we have not, but one day we will.
Yeah.
One day.
Saving it up.
Yeah. So.
All right. Well, have a great night, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us on this Found Footage Fridays. We don't know what we're doing next week. You'll have to come back and find out. Have a good rest of your weekend. Enjoy your week coming up, and we'll see you next week.
See you then.